can be a qualitative research, but it's not specifically design research.
Did anyone want to add to that or say, I disagree with that? Who said I agree? What else would you want to add? Did you have the same thoughts or anything different?
Yes.
Same thing? Okay. All right. Not a bad first try, you guys. This is good. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. All right. So I think you really hit some very big things. There's not an intervention. There's not an innovation that's being tested out or tested with them. So very nice. Now, does that mean it's not a worthwhile study? No, of course it is. In fact, I'm not sure we know much about that particular topic anyway. What a nice study, but it's not a design research study. Not yet. Now, as a result of this analysis, you might get inspired to design an instructional sequence. I don't know why you do it with 6-year-olds, but maybe, what grade did we decide? Maybe responsibility? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, so you might get inspired to do a design research program based upon this. So it's good stuff, it's just not design research. That was my opinion anyway. How about this one? I have written a Java applet that helps students learn about weight and mass. Science people in here? Any science? Okay. You're going to see my ignorance in science. So I hope this is at least somewhat sensible. All right. I want to see how some students interact with it. Talk with a partner. Do you think this is design research or not? I will call you when you talk, sorry. That's not fair. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about this one. This seemed to cause a little bit more discussion. Zishan, please.
We think that it might be design-based research because the researcher tries to develop an intervention which helps students learning about weight and mass, and also the researcher wants to explore in details how if students learn these concepts through interaction in learning environments. Therefore, it seems like design-based research.
Okay. Who wants to say, I know this group back here was not so sure, could not decide.
Yeah.
You were not able to decide. They're very shy. Would you mind saying why? What was not so sure about it?
Actually, it's not a design-based research because the thing is, just the researcher has decided what to do, and the borders are just exact. The researchers just should observe the interactions of the students while they're using the Java applet. We're not sure actually, but this app, I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe we need.
I'm not sure about your aim. I mean, do you test the Java applet, or how do students use it, or you just test it whether it works or not?
Yes.
And also maybe a concern about the number of the students. We're just discussing like Can we do like the design research just by using one student? Or do we have a specific number? Or
Great question. Is there a hard and fast rule about how many research subjects are needed for design research? I don't know of one. I just know the other criteria. And so if it fits the other criteria, maybe the number of subjects is not as important. I don't know.
But when it's not enough, because we
Oh, definitely one, yeah.
Okay, so.
So I think what we're hearing here is that there's not enough detail here to know what the goal is. And gosh, that's important for design research, to know what the goal is, to know if you're trying to understand the learning that happens as students interact with it for the purpose of being able to give this out for instruction. Then that maybe, yes, it is. It's a long-term program. If this is a pilot study, just to kind of test out, are they clicking here or here?
Yeah.
Maybe not so much. Although that kind of pilot study could lead to a full design research program. So this one, I like this. It's kind of not so sure. But I think what's important is that we're talking about what would make it really obviously a design research program. How about this one? I want to study how teachers learn how to teach slope by implementing a new 3-week instructional unit for pre-service teachers. I've talked a lot about students in here, but pre-service teachers. Talk really quickly among yourselves. In English. I'll give you time to think. That's kind of very, yeah. What do you think? I think All right. I did not ask Busa's permission, but please, Busa, would you mind sharing what your thoughts are?
Again, actually, I'm not sure, but it might be design research for me because there's an implementation and process. Actually, it's a not long, short process, and it's just 3 weeks. But I think it's a design research.
Okay. Does anybody want to add anything to what Busa said?
Actually, there's also an answer here, I guess, because how teachers learn how to teach. What does it mean, how to teach?
So it would not be pre-service teachers learning slope. We think they might know what slope is. This would be teaching them, using an instructional sequence to teach them how to teach slope to students.
Okay, but are you
Like a
talking
methods
about the
course.
methods?
Yes,
or-
like a methods course.
Okay.
But Michelle, I have a concern about the time.
Uh-huh.
Thought that, it takes too much time because we have to, enroll into a cycle.
Mhm.
So do you have a time for
There's
3
no.
weeks is not enough for, having another cycle maybe, to revise the
Well,
course.
remember that the cycles don't happen you don't do another cycle, you don't necessarily do another cycle 2 days later. It's next year. I remember the 1993 one. When was the next cycle for them? 1996. It was 3 years later because of the analysis and probably resources and that sort of thing. I was thinking, because I made these up, I put 3 weeks. Oh, yeah, 3 weeks because in a methods course, that's actually a very long time, and I'm not even sure that would be even allowable in a methods course. But I thought that was a pretty long time for a methods course. So
even the initial stages, you can also call the design research.
Yes. yes. Sandra, did you want to say something?
I think it would be a design research if the teacher revise and learn about the teaching of slope in the process, so we can have understanding about teachers' learning.
Yes.
So
Yes.
this would be.
So you're trying to document the way that the teachers interact with your sequence, your instructional sequence, that helps them learn how to teach. So in this case, it's not a sequence to help them learn a math concept. In this case, it's what we might call a teacher development experiment. If you're familiar with Marty Simon's work, he's got a piece in the Handbook of Research in Math Education, the first volume, I think it is, where he talks about a teacher development experiment. That would be this kind of thing. So I wanted to put a little mixture of different kinds of experiments in there. I think I've got two more. This was just for you science people. I wanted to prep you. I've written an instructional sequence on understanding the interdependence of plants and animals with their ecosystem. I want to document students' learning and the means of supporting it. It's obviously design research. You've got an innovation and you want to understand the process that goes along with that innovation and the learning that occurs. And then finally, I am working with 8 schools in one area and want to study the constraints. Is constraints a word you know?
Yeah.
Okay, constraints and supports that diverse systems encounter as they implement inquiry-based teaching techniques. Wasn't I talking to you about that? Somebody here I was talking to about that. This design research, you are going in and working with 8 schools in one, we call them districts in the United States, one system maybe, I don't know what you call it here, and you're going to work with them and see and try to study the process that these 8 smaller systems go through to become more inquiry in this bigger system. So that's definitely design research. Okay, thank you for participating in that. We have one more round of that sort of thing in a few minutes. So I wanted to go back to some of the things I did yesterday with talk specifically about classroom-based design research. This is the type that you make an instructional sequence and use it in a classroom with students. And so I was very strong yesterday that you needed to have a design theory to make your instruction and a learning theory that's compatible with it. Because the design theory, well, I'll talk about that in a second. So for example, I had mentioned yesterday some design theories. And what I mean by instructional design theory is a theory or principles for creating materials for a classroom, either a textbook or just innovative materials. What are the principles for designing those? The one we use is realistic mathematics education. I won't go over that today much because I did that yesterday. Variation theory, anthropological theory of the didactics. Oh. There's a ghost in here. Okay, so you got the idea. There's several instructional design theories to choose from. But it needs to be compatible with your learning theory. What's your belief or your commitment about how students learn? These are not, I didn't even put behaviorism down here, did I? There might be some other ones we could list. I guess that shows my bias, doesn't it? None of these are right or wrong. But depending on which one you adhere to or you believe in, for that particular purpose, is the one that you would want to be compatible with your design theory. In other words, I should have put behaviorism up here. If you believe in behaviors of that, and there are cases where that's a good way to think about learning. It really is. But if that's what you think it is, that you learn as a consequence of a stimuli, then I don't think you're going to pick RME as your instructional design theory. They're not compatible because the principles of the design program for RME, or realistic math education, it's not going to make instructional materials that are going to be a stimulus and to get a response. Okay, so that's why they need to be compatible. Your instructional design theory will guide the design of your materials. And your learning theory will guide the analysis of your results. And if you'd like, I will send these 2 PowerPoints to you because I see some people taking pictures, so I'll send them to you so it's not, you don't have to use your memory on your phone. Also, your learning theory sometimes or should provide an analytical framework. And I'll show you what that was for us so you have an example. Your interpretive framework, once you choose that from your learning theory, tells you what kind of data analysis technique to use, and it specifies that method. So for example, the instructional design theory I talked about yesterday, realistic mathematics education, that's what we chose. It's very compatible with what we call social constructivism, but a very specific social constructivism. It's called the emergent perspective. So briefly, if you were not here yesterday, those are the three main principles of RME. We aim to help students reinvent mathematics or science concepts, but this is specific to mathematics. Not stimulus response, reinvent, cognitively, conceptually reinvent. We start with real experiences or real contexts, and then we hope that the models and the things that the representations they use come out of their learning rather than giving it to them a priori. All right, here is Cobb and Yeagle, 1994. They created, is anyone familiar with this diagram at all? Okay, maybe one or two people. Oh, I bet you are. And say two you are as well. Yeah, so this is an interpretive framework that Cobb and Yeagle developed from working in classrooms. I would not use this if I'm doing a one-on-one interview to understand how you think about probability or something. Because this is a very social and individual interpretive framework, and it's not going to answer the questions I have about this situation. So this is not something you use all the time. You use it for your certain purposes. This is useful for analyzing classrooms of kids talking, 30 people talking at one time. How do you analyze that? This is helpful for that. On the left-hand side, what we say here is, or Cobb says here, is that learning is both social and individual. We learn and make these synapses or schemas. We make these as we interact with people. So you cannot separate the two. So your analysis has to include social constructs and individual constructs. That's a whole different workshop I'm not doing today, but that's a very tough idea. I promised you yesterday I would go into this, but I think I want to get to the integer stuff. Do we have those materials? Okay, good. Since we ran those materials, I want to make sure we get to those. So I'm not going to go over this, but if you're interested, Chris Rasmussen and I developed a specific methodology, data analysis methodology, for talking about how do you characterize the learning of a classroom. Not 30 individual learning, a classroom learning. So you can look at that. I think what I want to do now, since we don't have very much time left, is I already talked about this when I talked about that big global cycle. So I will not talk about this again. And I was going to give it to you with integers. Maybe I will show you this. The context of the integers instruction, which I'm about to hand out the materials from the integer instructional sequence just for fun. We can look through them. It's something actually we can interact with. But I want to tell you, set you up first. The context is net worth. And I learned yesterday and today net worth is not a concept in Turkey. In the United States, what it means is how much am I worth financially as an individual. We take all the things we own and we call those assets. All the things we possess that have monetary value. Not sons and, well, my son has monetary value. Hopefully one day. But you understand, cars and things. And then all the debts we have, like a mortgage on a house or something. And when we combine those two, if our assets are bigger than our debts, we have a positive net worth. We are worth positive finance. If our debts are bigger than our assets, we are in a negative net worth situation. And that's very common these days, given the economy. So that's the our students in the United States are very familiar with the term, maybe not the term net worth, but they get the idea. So they're just learning the term in our class. And we decided the model we hope that students would create that would be very helpful is a vertical number line. And it's red on the bottom, because when you're in the negative in the United States, we say you're in the red. And in the positive is the black. So what's really nice about net worth as a construct for students is, let's say you are worth $1,000. Gosh, I hope that's not true. But let's say for just the sake of talking, you're worth $1,000. Well, how many assets do you have? How much asset? You don't know, do you, from that? You could have owned $3,000 worth of stuff, and you could have $2,000 worth of debt. Or what else? You could have $5,000 worth of assets and $4,000 of debt? Yeah, $4,000 of debt. You can partition this number into positive and negatives. That part-whole relationship we always talk about in early number, you can do that with net worth in ways that we had not thought about before with integers. All right, so the goal of R&E sequences is to help students work in the concrete and then move to the abstract mathematical symbols. So I thought what we would do is, if we have the materials, I think we made, or somebody made 10 copies. Oh, thank you, Sejal. Sejal made 10 copies, so that's not enough for each of you to have one. So I was hoping you would get maybe in groups of 3 and just kind of thumb through. And because you don't know what net worth is, some of it might be a little, you might feel like my middle school students, which would be good. All right? What I would like you to do is just kind of thumb through it, first glance. You can work some of the problems if you'd like to, but you don't have to. Does everybody have, at least can see one? You want to scoot up? Okay, let me have your attention so you know what to look for. So just to start, we launched the entire sequence by telling the story of a popular celebrity in our country. Do you guys know Oprah Winfrey? Okay. Many people from other countries know Oprah Winfrey. She's very, very rich. And we say, I wonder what her net worth is. And so we Google it. And y'all can do this too sometime. Google Oprah Winfrey's net worth or one of your famous celebrities. And it will come up. And she was worth maybe, let's say $1 billion. And we talk about, whoa, what does that mean? And they will always list off things that she has. Like, well, she might have some cash in the bank, some savings. She has a jet. She has a yacht. She has a penthouse. She has Harpo Studios. She has this. The students know all these things called assets. They might not think to list off debts. Of course Oprah has debts. Well, maybe not. I don't know. But if she does, she certainly has enough assets to outweigh that. So I asked them to label off some debts she might have. And they say, well, she might owe on her motorcycle or her car. Maybe she has lots of cars and she still owns a car payment or something. And so they'll name some things off. And when they name them, we'll write them on the board into 2 categories, and then I will name them. These are things that are called assets, and these are called debts. And they make your net worth. I don't tell them how to put them together to make net worth. That's intuitive for them, believe it or not. So that first page, actually it's right here. The next thing I do is I hand out this page, and I think yesterday I told the story that when I got pregnant with my son, I first went to my finance advisor because I got scared. He's going off to college in 18 years, and in the United States, we have to pay for college, usually. And it's a lot of money. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars sometimes. And so I wanted to be able to save enough money to put my child through college in 18 years. And so he said, well, Michelle, before I can help you put away money, I need to know how much you're worth, which is very scary. And so he sent me this actual net worth statement. So this is the one my advisor sent to me, and I thought, well, I'm going to use this for my school, my class. And so I did. And so we hand this out, and we ask them to look at, here's the word assets, you can see. And so they look through these things, and they highlight words they know. So, for example, they all knew this one, cash bank accounts. But they probably did not everybody knew, nobody knew what an annuity was. I don't think I know what an annuity is either, but they went through this. Okay, so they filled this out. No, they didn't fill it out. They just actually tried to understand some of the finance terms. And then we went very quickly to the next one. And I'll let you look through the rest of the instructional sequence, thumb through it now that you know how it starts. Thumb through it and look at the progression of the problems. How do the problems change? How do the symbols change? How do I ask a question differently throughout this sequence? Do you understand what I'm asking? What do you notice about how it changes over the course of the entire sequence? It's a very big task, but see what you can find out.
So the middle school students do that.
The middle school students do not do what I just asked you to do.
Okay.
No, they work, I can hand them out a page at a time, and they work through them. Let me make sure that, there's a very good question up here. I do not have middle school students do what you're doing. We do these at a page at a time, and this is what takes the 5 weeks. All of this takes 5 weeks. Thank you. Jot some notes down. Ah, you worked it. You're the problem. You know that? Believe it or not, this is about 5 years old. There's still a couple. Can you believe it? I didn't hear it. Keep on moving. Look at this. You guys are fast. I think we have 3 minutes left. And so I thought we might get a few ideas out before you leave. You all are welcome to keep that. If you want your own copy, just send a note to Didem or myself, and I think, yeah, you have it now. We can both send you a copy of it. Also, I will show you what I use with teachers when I teach them how to use this. We have a teacher's manual. It's not your typical one, and I'll show you how it starts. We talk about the launch, and we describe the Oprah Winfrey net worth, the whole story, and how you might launch it. So we would give you this too for the whole sequence, since we're not here to talk about it with you. And this is something we give them and let them write on it. And usually, the one I use with teachers, that is blank. That is blank. because I want them to fill it in. So we're toying with, or I'm toying with this idea of an interactively created teacher's manual. You know what I mean by that? It's not a teacher's manual you hand to a teacher and they read through it. It's a teacher's manual that we create together. So I think that's an interesting idea. So if you leave those blank. So then it has stuff down here that is also blank when we give these to teachers and we fill these in together. But for you, it'd be helpful to see these since we're not going to do that with you. So talk about any 2 or 3 ideas that occurred to you as you were walking through these things. What did you notice? Stop. It's too many.
Okay. For the first 5 pages, we saw that you convert and adapt the activity for children's experiences for understandable words or examples. And in the 4th page, we saw that you want students create data, question, and solve each other, so you involve students in the process, creating an integer problem. I'm not sure.
Is that the empty one you're talking about? The one
Yes,
where they make their own
the empty
network?
one, yes. And the 6th page, and the last page, we thought that we're given a scenario for not saying verbal or symbolic explanations, but students can understand the negative words here. You not show them the negative, but they can understand that both comments are true and they can use negative words for if they are in depth.
So you're talking about the one that has SpongeBob and that. And so do we use the words negative in there?
Yes.
And you know why we use, so the word, you know why we use the word negative in there? Because the students are already saying those. You're right, we did not impose the word negative or the symbol, but they're already talking about it.
So it can help to use symbolic symbols for integers.
I'm going to put conventional or vocabulary. How about that?
Yes.
You know what I mean by vocabulary? It's
Yes.
usually, how do we introduce vocabulary in our math classes? At the beginning, and we define them, and we make them memorize them, we give them a matching test. But here, the vocabulary is coming from the students based upon their activity. That's how mathematicians work. The need to define is what causes them to make a word. And so that's what's happening here. The need to communicate causes us to make a new word, and that's really the power of vocabulary. Go ahead, Cedric.
That's all.
That's as far as you got? And then what happens? I know this group had talked about it over here. What happens after that? I know you know.
Yeah.
What's your name?
Hilal. My name is
Hilal?
Hilal, yes. Maybe I cannot just follow the sequence, but I can maybe say some big ideas that we have realized as a group. First, we realized that students in the context, and there's no symbolic, no algebraic, or no mathematical notations about the context, and because it is because maybe we are trying to reinvent them to the context we thought about that, and after some examples and real life examples and popular examples, they are realizing the meaning. I mean, they are constructing the meaning of negative and positive, but just meaning, no signs and no notations. Then to have maybe a common language with our old students, with the old class, we are just introducing the signs. It's negative and it's positive, and we will use positive for that and negative for that, and also some extra examples about the signs. Then the rules, I mean the material. There's a teaching or learning material in the classroom. We are introducing the material, and also the big idea, students are constructing meaning, but at the end they are also connecting all the different maybe representations about the concept, meaning, signs, material. They are reinventing and reconstructing.
That was beautiful. I don't think I could repeat that. I'm not even gonna try because that was so well done. So I think what you're saying, well, I guess I'm gonna try to repeat it just for everybody. You're saying that there's an emerging kind of activity going on here, which emergent models, do you remember that term? So the representation ought to come out of the mathematization, the reinvention process. And so people are noticing that we start with the word examples, the context. We move towards using some of the words, the vocabulary words, to introducing symbols. And then, so some of the symbols had like bank loan next to it. And so it had bank loan and then a negative 5,000. And then the next page just had negative 5,000, so that the symbol gets introduced with the context, and then the context kind of, I won't say it disappears, but it doesn't show up in the problem. It doesn't disappear because it's always hidden behind the symbol for students, or you hope it is. And so it moves towards the symbols. Later on, you didn't get very far, and you can look through it later if you like to, but it moves towards what we call transactions, like a bank transaction or whatever. So if you have $1,000 net worth, and you lose a valuable ring that your grandmother gave you, it was worth $500, what's your net worth now? And so that's what we know as 1,000 plus a negative, or no, take away a positive 500 equals 500. And then teaching them the situations first, losing a ring, how does that affect your net worth? And then moving towards symbolizing it with those positive, negative symbols. And so those are the operations. All right, enough of integers. And I just want to tie up this whole thing with what's the point of this? I mean, what are we trying to accomplish here? This is the outcome of a 5-year design research project. When we started this stuff, it did not look like what's in your hands. It really didn't. And in fact, we started, I'll never forget, it was just me and Jennifer Smith, my special education co-teacher. We started this just informally, and we tried to do it with debts and assets only. And people looked at us like we were crazy. They said something like, you have a $1,000 asset and you want to take away $1,500. You can't do that. You only have $1,000. And so that was impossible in their minds. And you know what? They're right. If your beginning is a dollar amount, you can't take $1,500 from 1,000. Now you might have to owe, but that was too complicated to them. This net worth idea emerged, like I said, when I got pregnant. It was like, I don't know what happened, but it just occurred to me, what if it was net worth? Then you could take away $1,000 debt from a net worth, because you could have $5,000 of debt in that number. And so that would make way more sense. So anyway, the point I'm trying to make is, you're going to stumble, but you're going to try, you're going to analyze it, you're going to revise it, and you're going to try again, and after 2 or 3 years, hopefully not 5 like me, you're going to have a very stable innovation at the end. And you can point back to all the work that you did that makes it and shows people why that's now stable. The goal now is to give it to people to try out. I want Dita to take it and use it in Turkey and see, can Turkish students who have no idea of this net worth idea, which is really interesting to me, what sense could they make out of it? It's a totally different context. Context here, not context like network. Totally different context. What an addition to this design research that would be, to see how other countries' students take this. All right, so I want to give you this website. And you know what, I can send this out, or somebody can send this out to you. This is this website, actually I could probably go to it and show you what it is. I'll wait till you, if somebody's copying it down, I don't want to. Maybe I can't go to it. Ah, there you go. And L, you probably recognize it, the Netherlands. They're just brilliant with design. They're, in my view, the leaders of instructional in mathematics. All right, so if you don't get it, I'm sorry, I'll get it to you another time. It should take you to a website. There's a new book out that has 2 parts, and it's all about educational design research, and it's not just mathematics. It is other domains as well. So part A is kind of like the theory behind design research. This is where I stole that Anthony Kelly, those quotes. He has a chapter here that's really nice, if you can understand his English. I'm not sure I can. So you can download that whole part, and it has a table of context, so you can pick certain chapters that would help you. And then part B are case studies, not case studies, but different cases of design research projects all over the world. Not just the Netherlands, not just everywhere, in science and technology. So it's a really nice, a nice collection that if I ever get to teach a doctoral seminar on this, I might, utilize it. So I wanted to give that to you guys, especially if you're not in math. It's got some really nice examples. So I will leave it there, but hopefully we got things answered while I was walking around. I didn't leave any time for questions, but we can talk after, I guess. I'll be around next week, so if any students or assistants are around and you want to talk, I'd be glad to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Not as bad as yesterday, though. This room is much cooler. Bye. Bye-bye, is that how you say it? I can do that.